Merry Christmas, everyone. Good morning. So today marks the fourth Sunday in Advent, and as we prepare our hearts for the coming Christ this week, we've been sharing with our missionaries and our mission partners that the Ridge supports. And so today, two of those missionaries are going to share today on the fourth Sunday, and that's Sage Peterson and Willow Burnett.
During these last days of Advent, we focus on God's love for us and the gift of Christ. What would cause a perfect God to come and serve the imperfect? What would move the King of Kings to be born in a lowly manger? The answer is found in God's love for us, which is revealed through his Son, Jesus. Good morning, I'm Sage Peterson.
And I'm Willow Burnett.
And we are both serving at F Street Neighborhood Church in Lincoln, Nebraska. Our church is intentionally planted in a neighborhood that has a lot of need, serving the homeless, those struggling in addiction, and those who are facing all kinds of challenges are a normal part of our church. Our mission is to be a place of acceptance and direction. Serving in this neighborhood has us reflecting on Christ's sacrifice and the power of God's love in a whole new way as we see its transforming power at work. Thank you to the Ridge for continuing to support the work being done here at F Street.
This morning for Advent, we wanted to talk about love. Love encompasses Jesus' entire reason and purpose for coming to earth. Let's reflect on John 3, verses 16 through 21. It says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but in order that the world might be saved through him. Whoever believes in him is not condemned, but whoever does not believe is condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only Son of God. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light, and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to the light, so that it may be clearly seen that his works have been carried out in God." Today, we light the love candle, remembering God's love shown for us in Jesus' incarnation. Because Christ's love has been poured out on us, we can love others.
All right, guys, I'm over here. I know I blend right in. You can't really tell where I am, okay? So as you can see, we have some adorableness. They're getting ready, but as they're finishing getting on the stage, looks like they're just about ready. I have two really quick things for you. Three, sorry. You guys, really cool. All the mission partners and our missionaries that we support that shared the Advent are all kids that grew up here and went through our ranks in our youth program. So I just think that's pretty amazing. And speaking of youth, we are going to hear from our kids today singing. And you guys know Christmas is upon us. It's this week. We have 5 services on the 23rd and 24th between those 2 days. And I checked this morning. We still could really use some help at the 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve. I currently have 2 candle lighters. That's going to take us the rest of the night to light up. So could use a couple more helpers. And if you're going to be out of town, we also have some food that you can bring for our volunteers that are here both days, our worship team, our production team. So if you want to do that and you want to drop those off, that's great too. And my last announcement is about this little number. Our Connect Guide just dropped in mailboxes this week, so maybe you already have them. If you're a type A like me, you're already perusing this and finding where you're going to lean in and grow this year. So I would encourage you to check that out, and they are at the Welcome Center after service as well. And without further ado, because really you didn't hear anything I said, you guys take it away.
As these kiddos leave, let's give them one more round of applause for being so amazing. You probably can't get one kid to move that fast. Better yet, 60 or 70. It's awesome. As we continue to worship this morning, I just want to acknowledge, we're rounding the corner to Christmas, and I'm sure that brings lots of different feelings, emotions for a group this size. So there's probably some excitement, some apprehension, maybe a little bit of sadness and sorrow. And as we continue to worship together, you'll notice our group's just a little bit smaller this morning, maybe a little quieter than you're used to. And I think it's just an invitation for us to attune our hearts this morning to Jesus saying, I'm coming to you where you are. No matter the place that you show up and how you present yourself this season and this Christmas, he's coming to you. So as we worship together and sing some familiar Christmas songs for the next few minutes, I would love for you to just open your heart to that reality and maybe just ask him to join you where you are this season. So would you stand with us? Let's sing some of these Christmas songs together, and let's invite Jesus to join us.
Joyful and triumphant, oh come ye to Bethlehem. Come and behold him, born the King of ages. Oh come, let us adore him. Oh come, let us adore him. Oh come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. Sing choirs. Oh, sing choirs of angels, sing in exaltation. Oh, sing all ye citizens of heaven above. Glory to God, glory in the highest. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him, Christ the Lord. And yes, Lord, we greet thee on this happy morning. Jesus, to thee be all glory. Word of the Father, now in flesh appearing. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore him. Oh, come, let us adore
angels we have heard on high, sweetly singing o'er the plains, and the mountains in reply, echoing their joyous strains. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Shepherds, why this jubilee? Why your joyous strains prolong? What the gladsome tidings be, which inspire your heavenly song? Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Come to Bethlehem and see, Christ whose birth the angels sing. Come adore on bended knee, Christ the Lord, the newborn King. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis Deo. In excelsis Deo.
The Son of God arrived, the one who would be called Emmanuel. The promise was delivered unto a virgin bride, the one who would be called Emmanuel. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name highest, your name is the greatest, your name, it stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name, it stands above them all. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name, it stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. And the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, holy, you are lifted high, holy, holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy to the King of Kings. Holy, you will always be. Holy, holy forever. You will always be. Holy, holy
Would you bow your heads and pray with me? Father, we do invite you into this place this morning. And in the busyness of this season and all that is going on in our lives and in our hearts, we invite you to settle on us. God, we're so grateful that you loved us so much that you decided to come and be with us. Not just many years ago through the story of Christmas, but right here, right now in this place. That you long to be with us, you desire to be with us. God, we invite you in. We ask that you would open our hearts to hearing from you in a fresh way this morning. And we give you all the worship and all the glory and all the praise. And we ask it in the name of Jesus. Amen. You can take a seat.
Hypothetical for you. It's Christmas time, and you've got a teenage nephew who is notoriously challenging to buy gifts for. It's not that he's an ungrateful kid or anything like that. It's simply that his parents are extremely well off. And so this kid doesn't want for much of anything. And so in years past, you've mostly resorted to Amazon gift cards or cold hard cash, and that's been a good workaround. But this year is different. A few weeks after Christmas, your nephew is going to turn 18. And so you'd like to do something extra special to mark this passage into adulthood. And so for a few days, you rack your brain. You try to transport yourself back in time to when you were about 18 and think about what would have made you happy, what would have brought you joy at that stage of life. And then one day, just a couple weeks before Christmas, inspiration strikes. You recall that you and your nephew have always bonded over a mutual love for classic cars, and that your nephew in particular is drawn to classic Ford Mustangs. So you hop online, you scour the internet, and you find a classic 1966 Mustang that just so happens to be available to rent on your nephew's birthday. It's a bit of a splurge for you. It's not gonna be cheap, but you know it's gonna be worth it. So you book it, you print off the receipt, you wrap that receipt in a box, and you bring that box with you to your family's Christmas gathering a couple weeks later. After some small talk and some appetizers, it's time for the gift exchange. And when it's your nephew's turn to open, you're surprised to see alongside the box you brought another box of about the same size. So your nephew considers both boxes for a moment, shrugs his shoulders, and decides to start with the other box, the box that you didn't bring. He unwraps the paper, he pops open the lid, and he proceeds to lose his ever-loving mind. Inside the box is a key. He jumps out of his seat, runs out the front door with the entire family in tow, bursts out into the driveway where he sees, wouldn't you know it, a black 1966 Ford Mustang with a giant bow on top. And in that moment, you die just a little bit inside. Your gift was thoughtful. Your gift was valuable. Your gift was good, but there's absolutely no denying it. The other gift, it was better. Well, today, I want to share a few stories from the Bible that illustrate a similar concept. The stories come from the life of Moses, and while I know we don't normally associate Moses with the Christmas season, let me just go ahead and say up front that this is, in fact, a Christmas message. It's a message about how God gives good gifts to his people and how in Jesus, he gave the perfect gift. So the beginning of Moses' story is found in the book of Exodus, chapter 1. But before we dive in, I probably ought to establish a bit of background information about Moses and kind of where he comes from. So in the book of Exodus, we find ourselves in the early days of Israel, but a few generations before Moses came on the scene, his ancestor Abraham was chosen by God to be the representative of God's goodness to the people. God had given Abraham and his family the land of Canaan, and he had promised them that someday in the future, the Savior of the world, the Messiah, would come through the family tree of Abraham. It's an unbelievable promise. It's God's assurance to Abraham that big and beautiful things are on the way for his ancestors and the people of God. But in Exodus chapter 1, we find the descendants of Abraham seemingly a long way off from that idyllic future. Over the course of a few decades, things have taken a turn for the worse for Abraham and his family. Famine has fallen upon the land that God had promised them, and so they've taken refuge in neighboring Egypt, where Abraham's great-grandson Joseph has used his position to secure for them things like food and safety for Abraham's family. So to summarize all that, Abraham's descendants, who I'm going to refer to from now on as the Israelites, have found themselves kind of stuck in a sort of limbo state. They've experienced famine and they've escaped it, and clearly that's a good thing, but they're also still seemingly a long way off from the big, beautiful future that God's promised them. They're in a place where things are good, but not great. And if that sounds familiar, maybe it should, because that's exactly where I think many of us find ourselves this Christmas season. We're surrounded by lights and carols and celebration, and yet deep down, I think we know something's missing. It's like we're living in the good, but we're longing for the better. And so with that for context, let's hop into our first passage for today. We're in Exodus chapter 1, verses 8 through 14, and it starts like this. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came to power in Egypt. And actually, I'm going to stop right there. There's a lot more to it, but I'm going to stop right off the bat because, folks, this is very much not a good thing. Now, a minute ago, I didn't dive super deep into the connection Abraham's great-grandson Joseph had to the power folks in Egypt, but I probably ought to spend just a little bit more time telling you about his position there, because Joseph's connections in Egypt, they went all the way to the top. Joseph was among the most trusted advisors to the previous Pharaoh of Egypt, and he and his family had a lot of privileges because of this position. And so when we read in this chapter about a new Pharaoh coming to power who wasn't particularly concerned about Joseph or his people, alarm bells should start going off in our heads. we should start to get worried for the people of Israel. So let's continue reading from there. Then a new king to whom Joseph meant nothing came to power in Egypt. Look, he said to his people, the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous, and if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country. So yeah, this new Pharaoh in Egypt has a pretty major case of paranoia and probably some xenophobia too. The Israelites are multiplying rapidly, and he simply does not trust them. So what do you do with people you don't trust? Well, apparently, if you're the Pharaoh in Egypt, you oppress them. So continuing in verse 11, we find this. So they put slave masters over them to oppress them with forced labor. But the more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied and spread. So the Egyptians came to dread the Israelites and worked them ruthlessly. They made their lives bitter with harsh labor in brick and mortar and with all kinds of work in the fields. This is grim stuff. And I suspect it's at about this point that some of you might be thinking something along the lines of, Dane, this is the week of Christmas. It's the happiest season of all. And here you are talking to us about systemic oppression. What's the deal? Well, let me remind you of what I said earlier. There is a beautiful Christmas message buried somewhere in here, but it's going to take us a bit longer to unearth it. So pull out your snow shovels and let's keep digging. And actually, it's going to get worse before it gets better. So if you thought the slavery bit was tough, wait till you see what comes next in verse 15. Sorry, I'm fighting a cold. It's going to be a bit of that this morning, so bear with me. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, when you are helping the Hebrew women during childbirth on the delivery stool, if you see the baby is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, let her live. And so now we've upped the ante from slavery to a full-on ethnic cleansing. Again, Pharaoh's paranoid. He's concerned that these foreigners are going to take over his country, and so when working them to the bone doesn't do much of anything to thin their numbers, he turns to straight-up murder. Let's read on. The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Skipping ahead to verse 22, then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw in the Nile, but let every girl live. So some recapping for you. God's promised the people of ancient Israel a bright future with a homeland and lots of offspring and eventually a Messiah who's going to come through their family tree. And these promises are meaningful, and I suspect they're a great source of hope for the Israelites. But apart from that bit about the large family, not much appears to be going according to plan for the Israelites. They've had to flee the promised land to escape famine, and within a couple of generations, the mood in Egypt has soured against them. They found themselves oppressed, enslaved, and under threat, and now a ruthless and murderous king has come to power, and he's commanded that every baby boy be killed as soon as it's born. Darkness surrounds them. And I have to imagine that for the Israelites in this moment, the light of God must feel faint and far away. His promises seem flimsy and maybe even false. But it's in the midst of this darkness that God's plan starts to take shape. And it's a plan that would culminate after many twists and turns some 1,500 years later in a sleepy little town called Bethlehem. So let's read about how this plan starts at the beginning of Exodus chapter 2. Now, a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds at the bank of the Nile. His sister, that's the baby's sister, stood at a distance to see what would happen to him. Then Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her female slave to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. And this is where the baby's sister comes in. Take a second and watch how clever she is. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go," she answered. So the girl went and got the baby's mother. Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." It's a pretty crazy story, isn't it? I mean, you've got to love the ways in which God is at work here. Moses' mother obviously doesn't want to drown her son, but, and I wonder if you picked up on this the first time through, she doesn't want to break the law either. So what does she do? Well, she actually follows the law by throwing her baby into the Nile. He just so happens to be floating in a basket when she does this. And she just so happens to put him in the river when Pharaoh's daughter is taking a bath. Then Moses' sister just so happens to overhear that Pharaoh's daughter wants to save the child and recommends her own mother, who is also Moses' actual mother, as someone who could nurse him. And then my favorite bit is this. Pharaoh's daughter says to the mother, "Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So not only does Moses' mom have her baby back, but now she's getting paid to raise him. So kids in the room, this is kind of like grandma getting you the toy you want for Christmas and remembering to include the batteries. Bonus time. This is the origin story of Moses, and quite frankly, it's a little bit bonkers. But it's also really, really cool to see the creativity of God at work. And this is only the beginning of Moses' story. Moses would go on to become one of the most significant people in all of the Old Testament. As I mentioned a moment ago, Moses was born into a time of profound darkness for the people of Israel. God's promises still flickered like a distant flame, but they seemed far off and in danger of being extinguished. But then Moses comes on the scene, and Moses is the switch that reignites the flame of Israel. As a young man, Moses would go on to do things like confront Pharaoh, speak on behalf of God, and ultimately lead his people out of captivity in Egypt. Thank you, Joni. That's going to help a lot. I didn't want to use my sleeve. That would have been awkward. Okay, back to Moses. He does big things. He leads people out of captivity in Egypt. He stands up to Pharaoh. He speaks on behalf of God. After that, Moses would go on to do even bigger things, like he was the one who was responsible for delivering the 10 Commandments to Israel, for commissioning the first dwelling place of the Lord, for establishing the priestly order of God, and for setting up the system of rituals and sacrifices that would allow folks to atone for their sins and get right with their Creator. Moses would eventually lead people on a journey through the wilderness and eventually to the doorstep of the Promised Land. And for all these reasons and more, Moses is an important figure. He's a beloved figure. But today, on the doorstep of Christmas, I want to show you an aspect of Moses that perhaps you haven't considered before. Because for all that Moses was and all that he accomplished in the name of God, perhaps his greatest gift to us is revealed when we view him as something of a litmus test, as a point of comparison to one who would come much later and accomplish far more. Here, I'm talking about Jesus. But what do I mean when I say I want to use Moses as a litmus test or a point of comparison to Jesus? Why draw parallels or contrasts between these two men who lived more than 1,500 years apart and in very different circumstances? Well, the reason, as the creator of the Bible Project, Tim Mackey, puts it, is ultimately the Bible is a unified story that points to Jesus. I believe that's true. And I believe this truth becomes more evident the more time we spend with the Bible. Yes, the Bible is a collection of literature written in different styles and different voices over the course of hundreds of years. But when you boil it all down, the thing that unifies it, the thing that ties it all together, is that the Bible is all about Jesus. And by all about Jesus, I mean all about Jesus. We often think of the Christmas story as confined to the first couple chapters of Luke and the first chapter of Matthew. But folks, I'm here to tell you today that it is much, much bigger than that. Although the people living in Old Testament times wouldn't have recognized it, many of the Old Testament stories are parallels to or foreshadowings of the life of Jesus. And today, I want to demonstrate this by taking another look at the story of Moses. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to briefly summarize an aspect of Moses' life, and then I'm going to show you how that aligns with the life of Jesus. And as we go along, I think it might be good to keep in mind the story I told you at the very beginning of my message today. The one about the gift that was good, but not quite perfect. Because here's my story, or my theory. I think when we read about Moses in the Bible, we ought to think, that's interesting, that's good, but it's not quite perfect. And I think this reality is supposed to become even more clear when we then read stories about Jesus and compare the life of Moses to the much greater life of Jesus. So to start off, let's go to that Bible story I told you, the first one I told you today, about how the Israelites came to be in Egypt in the first place. So as you might recall, Abraham's family, who are the ancestors of Moses, fled to Egypt to escape famine in their own land. Well, if you fast forward 1,500 years, we read this in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2. An angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph, that's Jesus' earthly father, in a dream. Get up, he said, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you. This, my friends, is a parallel, and it's not accidental. Moses' ancestors fled their land and went to Egypt to escape famine. Jesus' family, meanwhile, also was instructed to flee to Egypt. Why? Well, this actually leads us to parallel number 2. An angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. Get up, he said, take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child to kill him. Do you see that? The reason that Mary and Joseph were instructed to flee to Egypt is because someone in power was seeking to kill the baby Jesus. What should sound vaguely familiar if you were paying attention a few minutes previous, because someone else, as I recall, was also seeking to kill a baby in Egypt a few hundred years before. And if you dig deeper into the gospel, you're going to see even more similarities between the lives of these two men. Earlier in Matthew chapter 2, we get the full story concerning Jesus. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw his star when it rose and have come to worship him." When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. So why was Herod disturbed? Well, because he saw Jesus, the so-called King of the Jews, as a threat to his rule, which sounds a lot like Pharaoh's paranoia about the Israelites in the days of Moses. And just like Pharaoh, Herod launches an evil plan to eliminate the threat. Here's what we find in Matthew 2, 7 through 8. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and found out from them the exact time the star had appeared. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, "Go and search carefully for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me so that I too may go and worship him." But as some of you might know, Herod had absolutely no intention of actually worshiping the baby Jesus. As the story continues, the Magi depart for Bethlehem, where after presenting their gifts to Jesus, they receive a warning from God not to return to Herod. In chapter 2, verse 16, we find out why. When Herod realized that he had been outwitted by the Magi, he was furious, and he gave orders to kill all the boys in Bethlehem and its vicinity who were 2 years old and under, in accordance with the time he had learned from the Magi. Again, this sounds strikingly familiar to the conditions that Moses was born into. Jesus' family fled to Egypt to escape a murderous decree from Rome. Meanwhile, Moses' family was desperate to find a way to avoid an equally murderous decree from the Pharaoh of Egypt. And again, folks, this parallelism, it's not a coincidence, and it's far from a one-off. When we see narrative circles such as this one in the Bible, they ought to arrest our attention. They ought to cause us to sit up and listen, because they reveal that God, he's up to something here, something that is quite possibly going to blow our minds. Now, that might seem like a little bit of an overstatement. The fact that Moses and Jesus were both displaced to Egypt and that both were saved from murder, I think that's interesting, but maybe for you that doesn't quite rise to the level of mind-blowing. And that's fair enough. But as the lives of Moses and Jesus continue, the similarities continue too. And maybe more importantly, some significant dissimilarities start to crop up as well. And I think it's these dissimilarities that elevate this comparison from interesting to mind-blowing. So what do I mean by that? Well, to illustrate, let's try this. Do you remember what the name Moses means? We read about it just a few minutes ago in Exodus chapter 2. If not, we'll read it again here. When the child grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, I drew him out of the water. So when read in isolation, this revelation about Moses' name maybe seems sort of trivial. But then we get this from Matthew chapter 3. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he went up out of the water. At that moment, heaven was opened, and he saw the Spirit of God descending like a dove and alighting on him. And a voice from heaven said, This is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. When Moses came out of the water, he was given a name as a reminder of his physical salvation. But when Jesus came out of the water, he was named the Son of God, the one who would bring eternal salvation to all who put their trust in him. Moses rising out of the water was a good thing, but it pales in comparison to Jesus' rise from the water. Kind of like the Christmas gift analogy I started off my message with this morning. When we read stories concerning Moses, we should think, much like the lesser Christmas gift, that's interesting, or maybe even that's good. But then when we read the stories concerning Jesus, we should think, oh, that's better. And maybe even that's perfect. So let's look at a few more examples of this idea in action. In Exodus 20, Moses ascends a mountain to receive the 10 commandments from God. The commandments that he's issued to guide the people of Israel. That's a good thing. People need instruction from their Creator about how they ought to live. But then, in Matthew 7, Jesus, speaking not coincidentally from a mountain of his own, identifies the ways in which the commandments have been distorted, and he goes to great lengths to clarify the heart behind them. And that's better. In Exodus, we find Moses and the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years, where they learn to rely on God for their provision. It's a good thing. But in Matthew 4, Jesus himself has retreated into the desert for 40 days, where he is tempted by Satan before he ultimately prevails and demonstrates his divinity. It's better. In Exodus 35 through 40, Moses and his people build the first temple of God, in the form of an elaborate tent where the Spirit of God dwells. And in the book of Numbers, Moses establishes the tribe of Levi as the priestly class that's tasked with administering God's rituals and sacrifices. All good things. But in John 2, Jesus declares himself to be the temple of God. And he foreshadows his own resurrection by saying, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." That's better. And further, in 1 Corinthians 3, Paul explains that as followers of Jesus, we, you and me, have become the living temples of God, and that his Spirit literally dwells within each and every one of us. That's better too. In Deuteronomy 3, Moses brings the Israelites to a physical promised land from which God has commanded them to be a blessing to others. Good stuff. But in Matthew 28, Jesus declares the entire earth to be our promised land. And he gives us the great commission of spreading his gospel to the entire world. It's better. And then comes the great crescendo. In Leviticus 9, Moses establishes a system of rituals and sacrifices that are designed to allow folks to get temporarily right with God, which is definitely a good thing. But in Matthew 27 and Luke 23 and John 19, Jesus surrenders to death on a cross and willingly becomes the ultimate sacrifice that renders all future sacrifices unnecessary. Jesus dies in our place, and because of this, we are reconciled to God forever and have a place in his kingdom. That's better. In fact, I'd argue that's perfect. So do you see it? Do you see what God's up to when he presents Moses and the Israelites as a point of comparison to Jesus? Temples and commandments and priests and sacrifices, these are all good things. But Jesus, the same Jesus we celebrate the birth of this Christmas season, he's far, far better. So I've got 2 takeaways for you this morning. We'll call them my Christmas gifts to you. First, I want to offer you a pair of Jesus glasses. They're invisible. You just got to do this. Jesus glasses that I hope you will wear every time you read the Bible from now on. Because although the heart of the Christmas narrative takes place in the books of Matthew and Luke, the actual story of Jesus begins much earlier than that. And in fact, I firmly believe that it's woven throughout the entirety of the Bible. If you look for Jesus when you read the Bible, you're going to be astounded at how often you find him. And you might even have your mind blown every now and again. So that's gift number 1. I said there were 2. Gift number 2, and maybe the most important gift for this season, it's the perspective of Jesus. Although darkness and difficulty persist in our world today, the truth is that we live in a world that has been completely transformed from the one that Moses was born into all those years ago. Moses' hope lay in a future that was distant and uncertain. But our hope, it's certain and it's present. This Christmas, I hope you'll take heart in the fact that Jesus has come, that we live here and now in the better that he made possible. Will you stand and worship him with me?
Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Peace on earth and mercy mild, God and sinners reconciled. Joyful all ye nations rise, join the triumph of the the skies with angelic hosts proclaim, Christ is born in Bethlehem. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. And Christ by highest heaven adored, Christ the everlasting Lord, late in time, behold him come, offspring of a virgin's womb, veiled in flesh, the Godhead see, hail the incarnate deity, please this man with men to dwell, Jesus our Emmanuel. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and life to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that man no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. Sing that one more time. Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace, hail the Son of Righteousness, light and light to all he brings, risen with healing in his wings. Mild he lays his glory by, born that men no more may die, born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them second birth. Hark the herald angels sing, glory to the newborn King. As you go this week, we hope that you have a wonderful Christmas. If you are joining us for a service this week, we will see you again soon. If you are traveling to visit family and friends, we hope that you are safe and you have a blessed Christmas. If you are desiring prayer for yourself or for somebody that you know or love, we'd love to have you join us under the cross after the service. We have folks that would love to pray with you and for you. Go and have a great week.